Hello and welcome to a very exciting video. Tom and Tatiana here with our amazing crossover today, the chocolate lover himself, Joseph, who has brought us 3 incredible chocolates from Windsor today, which is where we're based. We haven't even tried these chocolates before, but we're super excited about pairing them with some amazing teas.
The first pairing that we're gonna do is gonna be with Dragonwell green tea and this white chocolate, which has got lime and coconut in it. We thought because Dragonwell has this nutty sort of like slightly roasty aroma, I think that it will balance each other out because it's a little bit kind of like an opposite spectrum of things, but it's still very, very, very subtle and mellow taste, so I think it will really work well together.
The packaging is quite an interesting picture because it really does show the lime. So if I was walking past this, I would say, oh, this could be the lime colour because of the light green. And also at the back, it tells you about the company and about as they're like basically from they were doctors and they're talking about the using real ingredients and they're not using palm oil, which is pretty good.
And that lime colour,
yeah,
green tea.
Yeah, green tea.
I'm not sure if we were just
I know.
somehow colour connected there, but it seems to make sense to me.
Also, this chocolate is from Peru and Dominican Republic. And also, when you and it's interesting because you think this is just a one little package, but when you open it up, it has a whole treasure trove of information from the cacao tree to the factory. There's also a history of the chocolate as well, which is pretty good because if you guys know that my first video was the history of chocolate and how I went from like beginning of who found the chocolate bean to now.
Yeah,
nowadays.
guys, so if you're not
Yes.
following Chocolate Lover yet, check
Yeah.
out his first video. Let's just try it. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Ooh,
Wow. Look how thin it is. It's
Wow, that is
amazing.
that is crazy. So it's so thin. It's like really thin, and also then it's not really a bar. It's just like chunks of bits of chocolate. The one thing I get a bit funny of is the plastic. I'm not 100% don't like plastic.
Yeah, I
Chocolate.
agree.
Yeah.
It's a
I
shame.
don't think that is
It's not plastic.
bioplastic or anything
No.
compostable. I'm going to start with tea,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then I'm going to have chocolate.
All right, let's do that because
Yeah.
then. All right, so let's observe the
Ooh,
notes.
So in our tea subscription, we have a Tea Tasting Like a Pro insert that you get with your first box. So usually when you're tasting tea, you're doing something a little bit differently than pairing. So today, we're not going to taste the tea like a pro. We haven't done the dry leaf, so usually you would inspect the dry leaf. You would also look at the liquor, you'd look at the wet leaf. You can do a little bit of that
Oh, that's so
just to
nice.
pick up the, gosh,
Ooh,
it's a very orchidy and grassy, dewy flavour that comes off of the wet leaf
It does, yeah.
and also off the liquor. You can see that it's a light, sort of yellow-green liquor.
It's very refreshing aroma as well, I would say.
It's very like, yeah, just it's very like mellow, kind of just relax. It's like being in a field and just in a summer's day and just looking outside.
I agree. You know,
Like,
one of my favorite
Probably in
aromas.
Switzerland, somewhere like that. You know, Switzerland,
Yeah.
somewhere like that. You're sitting there, you're just like looking out the area, and just drinking this tea. You're like, oh, it's nice
Yeah,
day.
you feel the freshness of like almost like spring, you know, and you feel
Yeah.
the. For me, it somehow also reminds me of like freshly cut grass, and like this sort of
Yeah.
slightly like sweet hay aroma, and
Yeah, it's like going to like that. Yeah, like the hay, like the farms, like going through farm pastures, and just having that sense.
And I imagine that this sort of like freshness and sweetness of it will really pair super well with chocolate. So let's try
Yeah.
it.
So the smell of this chocolate is really tangy, lime. I mean, you can't smell the coconut because the lime is literally taking over that coconut It's like, you know, I'm here, you're there, we're going to be doing this.
I can taste that coconut on eating,
Wow.
but on the smelling it's not so obvious. But it tastes, the coconut really comes through on the taste, and the lime kind of just gradually takes a back seat as you eat that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, one goes ahead and then one then goes back, and then you have the grinded, because this is mostly
Those
it looks
go
like
so
coconut.
well.
Right. It's literally, I just tried it and I was like, oh my god, there's like paradise, like heaven in your mouth. It just goes so well together.
That's crazy how well that goes.
We did it.
And it's not the same flavour, but it's a complementary flavour that they both seem to create a sort of between themselves a tropical feeling of being on a beach, of relaxing, of having nature around you. I think what's going to be interesting about this lime versus some of the other teas and the other chocolates we've got is that these are quite fresh, light flavours that don't get too bitter either. A lot of green tea is quite bitter and it can be quite astringent, and this actually is very fresh, and it seems to complement all of those fresh flavours of coconut and lime that come out of the chocolate really well.
So we're going to be trying out the espresso organic dark chocolate with cracked coffee beans, and 95% organic ingredients, which is good. And when you open it up, it's exactly the same as the last chocolate we tried, so we don't need to delve into that as much. The package is really nice. It does give you an espresso kind of feeling when looking at the packaging, because it has a dark kind of colours it uses.
Reminds me of those coffee pots you get where they all come in different colours.
Oh, yeah.
And this is that sort of darker
Yeah.
espresso.
The
that gives
espresso
it-
one,
espresso
yeah.
one,
I also like that, you know, the red kind of like stands out really from the dark sort of like packaging around it.
So we are going to be pairing the espresso Dr. Chocs chocolate with our Wild Wooyi Hermit black tea. And we chose Wild Hermit because it is not as dark as maybe Pu'er, because espresso is already really dark. So we thought this is something that has robustness, it has smoothness, it has in and of itself a slightly chocolatey quality, but maybe not like dark chocolate quality, more like milk chocolate quality to offset. Almost like adding a bit of milk into your espresso.
What our thinking is that it's going to lift it up slightly. So let's lift the darkness and the intense flavour of the espresso chocolate. Let's see.
So why is this wild? It's because it's not grown on a tea plantation or a tea estate. This is plucked from wild trees in the Wooyi Mountains. The Wooyi Mountains themselves are quite spectacular. Amazing, tall, colonnade-like mountain structures. And loads of rocky nooks and alcoves that grow wild tea in China.
You know what? It really reminds me. If you've never seen how Wooyi Mountains look like, definitely Google it. But it also reminds me of like the Avatar film. It's so amazing. I swear, I feel like they got inspired by the Wooyi Mountains, the filmmakers.
I think they have. I think that's the place where when they were making the film, they went on location and they kind of got to see it and then kind of implement it into the film.
I remember watching an interview about that. Yeah. So it's so beautiful, and it's so amazing that they just allow the teas to grow wildly in balance, in harmony with nature, and then they just, you know, pluck them as they come. Let's try the tea first.
Definitely.
See what happens. I'm curious to see what you think, because I feel like the tea on its own already has a very chocolatey flavour to it, or aroma. And by the way, it has zero flavouring. There is nothing, no additives, no external flavours added to it. The aroma and the taste literally comes from the processing. It's really amazing. What do you think?
I can't put my I can't. There's something, but I can't put my.
Okay,
I don't want to
we're
help
gonna
you. Everyone's
no,
flavour tastes.
No, let's think about like let's use the flavour wheel.
Earthy. It's
Earthy?
got earthy.
Okay.
Wood. It's a type of wood.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can smell a
wood.
bit like nuttiness, just a little bit like of and
Smoky.
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 Okay.
I could think someone would roll up the tea and smoke. I
Really?
don't think anyone's actually done smoked tea. I mean, like
They'll be out there. I'm sure someone can give us a
Tea.
comment about what that was. What that was
Interesting.
like.
smoky. Yeah.
For me, I get sort of dark caramel notes from this one.
Caramel as well, yeah. But I can see
Ooh, that's
woody, and I can
That's
see.
woody.
For me, I feel like it really reminds me of chocolate as well.
Mm.
Yeah, that's woody. That's woody.
All right, let's do this.
Good snap on the chocolate. I always appreciate that.
Oh wow.
So, the smell.
Oh, I love that.
Can't really smell the coffee though.
No.
For dark chocolate, can't really smell coffee at all.
I get it on the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's very.
I just got it instantly. It was like a
little
Whoa.
punch.
You get it at the start?
It literally started like a little a punch.
Because I associate that with dark chocolate taste naturally, but I think it's enhanced by the espresso taste.
Yeah.
It like sort of adds on to that.
I feel like you bite into it, you get this like really quick punch of espresso, and then as you start sort of like chewing and and tasting it in your mouth, you can feel this like bitterness, you know, that you get with really dark chocolate, and this lingers a bit longer on your palate, and then you kind of like also get a bit of sweetness towards the end.
I've just had my second sip of tea afterwards. It's interesting.
Wow.
Oh,
It changes the quality of the tea, which is also interesting. You still have like bits of chocolate in your mouth with the espresso and with the dark chocolate flavour, and it almost like this is maybe less rich and dark than this, but it completes that chocolatey sensation across the different flavours that you don't get from espresso chocolate. It's like lighter chocolatey flavours that come with the tea, but you still taste, because of the chocolate in your mouth, the other
Yeah.
flavours at the same time, which is kind of fun.
really interesting actually. Kind of like slightly lift, like it kind of does lift it up, as we said, right? And it makes it a bit more, it cleanses your palate a little bit, but also just adds sort of like a, balances it out, because it is really dark and it's really kind of like heavy flavors, and this in comparison is actually much lighter, and it lifts it up and it gives this freshness a little bit to the flavor, to the palate, I think.
Yeah, it feels like more of a natural accompaniment, like it's in the same wheelhouse as the chocolate, rather than maybe when we did our Longjing with the lime and coconut, where maybe it was more of a cocktail of ingredients. This all fits within that dark flavour profile,
I agree.
which is nice.
Yeah, I agree. This is more complementary, whereas the other one was a bit more like on the opposite sides of the spectrum.
It sort of reminds me a bit like, because I had my last little taste of the chocolate. It had the carbon. I had like a carbon taste to it.
Interesting, yeah.
It's quite
Carbon's an interesting one.
yeah. I think like because I've had some teas, some green teas from China, and because I think where they grow it, the water's carbon. It's got a lot of carbon
Like
in the water.
mineral, right?
Yeah, like a mineral taste.
Actually, like now that you talk about it, I totally agree. And I think that the chocolate actually brings the more mineral side of the tea out, right? Because before I didn't taste it as much, but now after eating the chocolate, it's a bit more minerally. Carbon, yeah.
Carbon, yeah.
I agree. Interesting.
Yeah.
Something to do with these leaves from the wild trees is they tend to get a bit larger as well. You tend with, for example, if we were to go for something like a silver needle, which is all about floral aromatic qualities, you pick very young leaf for that purpose. Small, few weeks old, first flush stuff.
Baby leaves.
Whereas maybe that mineral, because the leaf has been longer standing, it develops and pulls in more of that surround that you're tasting.
Yeah.
I agree, and also obviously it being growing in the mountains, I think the soil is just more mineral rich, and it just soaks up the minerals from the mountain and from the soil and from the rocks as well, where it grows. So really interesting. I'm quite impressed by this.
And I'll just let you know to all the Tea Pro viewers out there and the Chocolate Lover viewers, dark chocolate is good for your mental health. It lowers cholesterol, has a lot of iron in it, so you don't have to have an iron tablet. You just have some dark chocolates, but make sure it's actually dark chocolate. Because there are some brands out there that say it's dark. It's like 60% with a bit of milk on it, really.
How much percent does this one have? Is it like?
Let's see. Open it up. 70%. 70%. So that's
Cool.
good. That's good. Has sugar in it. It has sugar. So what's the sugar content? 28 grams out of 100 grams.
I'm gonna be so hyped after this. Luckily, tea contains L-theanine, so hopefully it'll kind of keep us balanced and calm.
Yeah, relaxing.
What is our verdict for this pairing?
I would say overall, I'll give it like 7 out of 10 for the pairing.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's like, you wouldn't want to have it all the time, but it's just one, some days you just have a bit of dark chocolate's great for you anyways. It needs a health benefit. So in the end of the day, you're having a health benefit and a health benefit, so it's very healthy.
Healthy pairing.
Healthy pairing.
Healthy pairing.
Very healthy.
And I think
Which
it's
is
really
ironic
good.
given how they look.
I agree. I totally agree with you. I think the first one was just like, wow, it just blew our minds. And this one is really, really good, but maybe just slightly less kind of like amazing than the first one.
It doesn't create something new out of it.
Yeah.
They complement really nicely, but I think if you're looking for an experience where the sum of its parts is greater than the two separate, you're looking here. Whereas maybe they're both in the same wheelhouse, a bit too close together for it to add that additional element. They're all in the same element.
Yeah. Next time, maybe it'd be interesting to pair it with something like matcha or something like completely crazy, random.
Yeah, that'd be good. Interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Okay, last tea and chocolate pairing, which is going to be very exciting. So for this tea, we decided to go with Pu'er, which is super exciting. It's aged tea that, similar like whiskey or wine, you have to age it for many, many years for it to develop its amazing flavor. And this one is actually rose Pu'er, so it's got like rose petals. It's basically tea that is compressed together with rose petals and then left to age for quite a few years. So it's super exciting.
Let's get our Pu'er out. So the shape of these they call taucha, and taucha basically means dome-shaped, and it's quite a traditional way to press Pu'er. It was used for two benefits. One, it ages better pressed into a cake, and also it's more easy to transport. And so it's like a trade mechanism, especially across borders with like, I don't know, nearby countries to China, like Mongolia or whatever, they would trade with Pu'er between themselves.
How long are these being aged? Do you know
These are 2012, these
2012.
ones.
Okay.
So there are older ones, and you can get some very expensive Pu'er dating a long time. 2012 is a nice balance. This is a ripe Pu'er. You can have sheng or shu, raw or ripe. Ripe is made slightly differently to raw. I think raw benefit from the longest aging. They take more time to change in terms of the flavour over time than ripe.
The ripe one, they actually have like a special procedure where they they pile it up and they dampen, sort of like put damp cloth on top, and it sort of ferments. But it's sort of like this beneficial bacteria that form in them, and that's why Pu'er is actually really good for digestion, and it's really good to eat after a really heavy meal. So I think it could be a really good pairing with chocolate anyway, because it will help you to, and hopefully you won't, gain any weight from eating the chocolate.
After our third bar of chocolate,
Exactly. What a great way to, finish off the review. Hopefully burn off all the calories.
Oh, definitely. It's quite, because it's gonna. So we're trying out the cappuccino one. Organic milk chocolate this time with cracked coffee, like the dark chocolate we had, cinnamon and yogurt. Now that's an interesting mixture, from spices to coffee and then another milk product, yogurt. The packaging is an interesting packaging because it's much lighter than the espresso one. It has a much And it's interesting because like when I walk past, if I don't see cappuccino, I would have thought this is a salted caramel flavour because of the bar of the
I agree. Yeah.
cacao bar. And it has a nice and monkeys. I haven't mentioned this, but there's the monkeys on it. I'm not sure how related to monkeys, but I think because Dr. Choc, the family are Indian, and there's a lot of monkeys in India, in the forests of the Indian mountains and all, and and there's also a little description about each one has a little description at the bottom about the chocolate, about the flavours and.
So cracked coffee, cinnamon and yogurt, organic milk chocolate. So this is a milk chocolate, unlike the other ones, which is cool. And the reason we thought, without trying it yet, the rose puer was to be a good idea. I think yogurt, cinnamon, rose fits quite well in that wheelhouse. It's also darker than our black tea in terms of its aesthetic, which maybe pairs a little bit better with lighter chocolates, and similarly very mineral, very floral, very dark, and what would be the best way of putting it with puer? Mineral's a good word for it. Maybe woody, maybe nutty.
Yeah.
But also that
Earthy,
rose.
really earthy.
Yeah, really earthy. But also that rose coming through, I think, will balance with that cinnamon and that yogurt. That's the hope.
Yeah, because like looking at the chocolate, when you think of like cinnamon, you kind of think of that kind of reddish colour.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of looks a bit slightly reddish, but also the yogurt, and I would have thought it would be slightly more whiter because you're using more. You've got milk and yogurt, so you would have thought it'd be much more whiter, but it's just still look like milk chocolate to me. And so I mean, obviously cinnamon's very small powder, so it's not going to have like chunks of bits of cinnamon.
Oh, I do love this tea. I think the thing with puer as well, which might work well with what you're saying, is also yogurt. You know, aging qualities of yogurt.
Yeah.
Puer,
Or even the
aged tea.
probiotics, you know, the
bacteria,
bacteria, which is also what the puer is all about all these like fermented bacteria that are good for your gut, right? And yogurt is the same thing. So
I think I've had this tea before. It sounds
really,
that the smells familiar. It's that earthy. The smell very earthy, very aroma. It's just, if anyone's been to a Tudor house, it has that kind of woody. I think oak wood they use a lot in the Tudor houses. That kind of because the smell is so potent in the houses, and the homes. It's that kind of, I don't know. It's that kind of like organic. It's very organic. And like, you know, obviously they don't use bricks back in those days. So it's, I mean, some of them might have bricks, but that kind of
funny, isn't it? Yeah, you can almost feel like time traveling from having it. You pick up history throughout the flavour. You can taste almost like tea would have done. And this is the very original type of tea, puer. It was one of the first varieties that they came up with to press it and age it in this particular way. Later varieties, you know, greens, whites, sort of a bit further along the timescale of Chinese history, but puers were right there at the start. So maybe something about that is also traditional.
okay, I'm actually super excited to try this.
Yeah, let's try it with this.
Cappuccino with yogurt, cinnamon.
Oh wow, I can smell the spices.
Yeah, cinnamon spice, yeah. And guys, if you don't know what cinnamon is, cinnamon is a bark of a tree grown in Indonesia.
It's really coming through that cinnamon, isn't it?
And cappuccino.
Wow! Oh my god. That punch. It's like instant.
Maybe it's not correct, but for some reason I feel like rose and cinnamon really find a place together. I don't know where I'd have seen that combination before.
Me neither, but it sounds like it could work. Let's see.
But are you guys going to get the taste of the yogurt?
A little bit.
Quite creamy. There's quite creaminess.
I can't work out if that's the milk chocolate or the yogurt. But you're right, it's smoother and lighter.
I wonder
A
how
little
they
bit-
get this cappuccino flavour to it. I don't even know. I guess it's like a little bit of coffee-ish.
Yeah, I mean it's probably just I know why it's called
But-
cappuccino because of
But the
milk.
creaminess with the yogurt
It's-
and milk.
Yeah, and then
Mm.
there's the
Mm.
coffee bean.
Okay, let's see.
There's a bit of a crunch as well. There's a bit of a crunch.
Oh my god, it's so good. Tom.
Wow.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow.
That rounds it off, doesn't it?
Oh my god, it works so well together. I had
Oh.
no idea. Oh, what?
Wow.
I like it when we were doing our espresso with our Wee Wild black tea, we were too similar. With this one, it adds a whole different area of flavour to what is already something delicious. And that's fantastic. It's
Oh
a
my
lot
God,
like
I need more.
a lot like the experience I had with the lime chocolate, because together so much more
Oh,
than
yeah.
what they would have been separate, which is awesome.
And the one thing about this, it's actually quite intense. It's like it's like the dark chocolate. Because usually milk chocolate you can have like a whole big bar of it and that goes, and you can't really have that in dark chocolate. But this is actually really intense, like really rich.
Definitely.
And I think also something about Puer sits well on the stomach.
I'm so impressed. This is definitely
Actually,
like
well.
10 out of 10 for me. Really good.
Yeah, I think the cappuccino idea by itself is usually quite filling. Like you get a lot of milk with your coffee,
And this isn't, yeah.
whereas this you just get all of the flavour and none of the feeling of maybe too much coffee. You know when you have like a big coffee?
Oh
like,
yes, yeah, it's a bit like
It
strong.
can be a bit intense, but this is so smooth and calm and sort of completing with those cinnamons, yogurts, and rose and mineral.
I agree.
I find that when you have chocolate makers making these chocolates, I find when they add too much ingredients, it confuses the brain. Because when I had a pina colada one, it wasn't. It confused me because it was like, where's the pineapple flavor? Where's the rum flavor? This one? Because yogurt is basically milk based, and there's milk chocolate, there's milk, and there's cinnamon and coffee. It does round out really nicely.
I agree. It's not too much. It's not too confusing. It makes sense. And it also, like, the pairing makes sense so well.
Your line.
You've got number 1, then we've got number 2, and then we've got number
But in
3.
terms of pairings, number 1,
Yeah.
number 2, and number 3 as a pairing combination goes. And I agree with that completely.
I agree with that. I think,
Yeah.
guys, this has been such a good experience.
it.
I
It's
loved every
brilliant.
minute of it.
So good.
And the chocolate has been amazing. The pairing, the combination has been super good. And also, so nice to hear from you
Yeah.
and all your knowledge of chocolate. It's really impressive.
We've loved sampling these chocolates and pairing it with our teas. Thank you to you Tea Pros for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. We hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you agree. Let us know what you think about these chocolate and tea pairings, whether we can improve upon any of those, and whether you've done it yourself and have any recommendations on what teas and chocolates go well together. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Have a good time. We are going to be off to a bonfire night shortly, and we're going to be enjoying ourselves in the cold.
Bye!
We'll see you soon. Bye.